What is going on, Washington fans? Welcome to Bleacher Report. I am Josh Taylor. If this is your first time, I do some content here for the Washington Commanders, just keeping you up to date on everything. And as you've probably seen on the social media today, it is officially the Combine week. So what is a great time to start talking about some draft prospects for the Washington Commanders, just to keep an eye on and kind of get yourself familiar with as the next few months quickly approach. I mean, free agency is coming up soon. We're only just a few weeks away from free agency starting. And then we have the draft pretty much like right after everything and all the madness starts to settle back down. The draft happens and it's just nonstop action. So I will be continuing to do some streams and just keeping you up to date on everything for Washington for this offseason coming up. Got a lot of things to talk about. I've already done some things for the free agency coming up. Of course, like I said, Adam Peters has been talking today at the Combine, giving us some good nuggets. So just stay tuned. Got some really good things planned out. But like I said, I've already had like my billboard kind of, built out for the prospects and I'm really watching for Washington. Just some really good fits, but then also position needs, but then value in the draft. That's something that you'll hear a lot of these GMs talk about is value and kind of like the positions and the draft and stuff like that. So I wanted to give you all some prospects to really keep your eyes on as the next few weeks. Like I said, 2 months really pretty much start happening and you'll get yourself familiar with these people. And maybe you'll start watching them at the Combine, watching the drills, even though some of these quarterbacks decided not to throw. You'll still get to see some really good talent on the field at every position this week at the Combine. So I'm going to start it out with obviously the biggest need, the most important position that, like I said, Adam Peters was talking about today. And that was really just finding the quarterback for Washington. He talked about Brock Purdy, just, going through that process. And he was like, if we knew he was going to be as good as we did, we probably would have picked him earlier. And not just the last pick of the draft. Then he said a little nugget at the end when he said, now I have to find a new quarterback. Now, he also talked about Sam Howell, talked about like how much he loved Sam and how they, got to talk and walk the field and really get to know each other. But I think it's still important. And it doesn't matter. Like, you can debate whatever you want with pick number 2. There's still a possibility that Washington could trade up to 1. The Bears, Poles was talking today, talking about how they want to get everything done before free agency, whether that's trading the pick, trading Justin Fields, whatever the outcome is. Like, they're currently in the process of figuring out what they want to do at the quarterback position with evaluating Fields, evaluating Caleb Williams, and then also just taking a look at what the rest of the draft looks like. He said they've gotten some interest for pick 1. They've had people call, but nothing like big, like offers. So I think they're really just waiting to get everything done, then start fielding these offers and go from there. So there's still a possibility that Washington could trade up to number 1 and get Caleb Williams, who, in my opinion, is the number 1 quarterback in the draft. And I don't think it's close. I think Caleb Williams is that consistently special quarterback. I'm not going to get too deep into evaluating these guys because I'm going to get to, every position that I think Washington's really looking at in the draft. But trading up for Caleb, regardless of whatever that looks like, I'm not sure what a trade package would look like. I've seen it all over the place, but it would be worth it because Caleb Williams is a special quarterback, and you need that kind of, out of rhythm, kind of freestyle street ball that Caleb Williams plays with, kind of like Patrick Mahomes, just making something out of nothing, but then making the plays like that you don't actually draw up, like making special things happen. That's what Caleb Williams does really well. And he has elite arm talent, whether it's the velocity, the arm angles, throwing on the run, whatever he does, Caleb Williams has special arm talent. Now, I think if, Washington stays at number 2, this is where the debate starts to happen. Obviously, with Drake May, Jaden Daniels. You've already seen it on social media. You've already seen people talk about it. And I've said this for a while now. If Washington goes with Drake May or Jaden Daniels at 2, I'm excited. I'm happy. I think both of them are really good quarterbacks. I think they're both different quarterbacks, but I think they do have a lot of similarities. I think Drake May has the better pro-style offensive style to him, regarding going through your progressions across the middle of the field. So you want to talk about Cliff Kingsbury. You want to talk about his mesh concepts. You want to talk about what he does and really just utilizing and making these man-to-man coverages for the defense to where they can't really do anything. It's just them against the receiver on an island. You're going to have Terry, Jahan Dotson, and I'll talk about some wide receiver options on this video as well. But ideally, another wide receiver added this offseason to really take advantage of these matchups. And I think Drake May would really, translate well with that, with reading across the middle, going through the progressions that Cliff Kingsbury gives them, and finding the open plays. Now, the thing with Jaden Daniels is I think he's going to have an easier transition to the NFL because he does have special leg talent. Obviously you saw that at LSU. I think Drake May has sneaky athleticism. People have talked about it. When it's picking up 3rd and 4th downs with your legs, Drake May is the best at it, actually. Like, he has the most first downs with his legs on a 3rd and 4th down in college this season. But he also has the more big-time throws, throwing deep. And the thing I like about Drake May is how he really anticipates his throws. Like I said, with Jaden Daniels, he has that double-edged sword where teams have to, be cautious of the legs because it's a special talent. Like, you can't just teach that kind of stuff. Drake May is only 21 and a half years old, 6'4", 230. Jaden Daniels, he's 23. He's been in college a little bit longer, was at Arizona State before he transferred to LSU, played LSU 2 years. But he's 6'4", 210. So he's the same height as Drake May, just not as dense as Drake May. Drake May is going to run guys over. Jaden Daniels is going to just kind of make guys miss and put guys out of position to even tackle them. There's a bunch of plays this year where it's like, oh, that safety is about to get Jaden Daniels. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, maybe not. Jaden Daniels somehow got behind them and he creates a giant run. And in my opinion, like, these 3 quarterbacks are the only options, in my opinion. Some people like J.J. McCarthy. Some people like Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., whatever. J.J. McCarthy, maybe because that Michigan team on both sides, offense and defense, is the most NFL-style team in college. And I think that really helps out J.J. McCarthy too. But me personally, I did not see enough J.J. McCarthy to say, okay, he's going to translate well to the NFL. But he is only 21 as well. Like, there's still more upside to him. There's still more to tap in there. But me personally, I'm not in on that train of let's trade back and just hope J.J. McCarthy turns really good. I just saw too many times Michigan was not willing to say, hey, let's put the game in J.J. McCarthy's hands, let him win the game. It was more of let's just run the ball down people's throats, and our defense is going to be really good. And then J.J. McCarthy is going to make the throws that he has to make, and he did. He had a couple bad games, but there were some other games that really impressed the heck out of me, especially, down the stretch at the end of the season, and then also in the playoffs and winning the national championship. Like, that's big. But how well is he going to translate to the NFL? That's the biggest question mark for me out of any player in this draft. I have no idea what to expect out of J.J. McCarthy. I think his legs are pretty good too. Like, he can extend the plays and stuff like that. Like, he's not like a Mac Jones where he's just like a statue in the pocket. Shout out to Mac Jones, Roll Tide. But still, it's just a different style of a quarterback. But like I said, I don't want to take too much time on the quarterbacks, but in my honest opinion, getting Drake May or Jaden Daniels, ecstatic. Getting Caleb Williams, trading up, even though you are giving away some assets, it just sets you, it's a home run. It sets you up for the future long term. Like, you have a generational prospect that you have to mold with. And of course, Cliff Kingsbury has already worked with them. He knows what to expect. That'd be an easy transition. Like I said, Drake May, in my opinion, between him and Jaden Daniels, has the higher passing upside. I think it's good. I think it's going to get there. And you've heard comps and stuff like that. Like, honestly, when I watch him, I see a younger Justin Herbert. Now, Justin Herbert played longer at Oregon, so he came out a little bit more refined. I think Drake May can get there, though. That's what excites me. Like, I think Drake May can be really special. And same with Jaden Daniels. Like I said, I think it's going to be an easy transition for him to the NFL. I think his legs really help him out. I think he's a better passer than what people give him credit for. Like, I was not dogging him at all as a passer, saying that I think Drake May is going to be better. But I think that Jaden Daniels will have an easier transition. But what's the upside? Like, could Drake May be better than him 2 years from now? And in my opinion, I would say yes. So that's my take. 3 quarterbacks. You can make the argument for 4, not rolling it out. But let's see. Let's go offensive line next. Obviously, that's one of the biggest needs. And I just want to talk about like where Washington could draft some of these guys. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get one of these top 10 picks. Where I'm starting is right down here at the Tyler Guyton and Jordan Morgan of the offensive linemen. Tyler Guyton, really athletic right tackle, 6'7", 327. Really good mover. So that's something I kind of have studied the last few weeks as well. As with Cliff's offense, your offensive tackles have to be athletic. They have to be able to move in space, get to that second level or pull if they have to. But they have to be able to move. It's no Mekhi Becton's out there just kind of stonewalling guys. And there's some free agents. Like I said, I did a free agent video. It's on my YouTube channel, JTFB. Check it out. Giving you some options with the offensive line. But I still think you have to draft some high ceiling guys, especially at tackle. And I'm looking at those 2 second-round picks. I can show you what Washington has here in a mock draft simulator. We have pick 36 and pick 40 right there in the second round. So if you go, let's just say Drake May, which is kind of like what I've said. This is really your options. And I go with PFF because I really like their rankings. I agree with what they have so far. Obviously, the draft doesn't happen exactly like what you think it's going to. You've got center Zach Frazier here at 34. But this is where almost every single time I'm drafting Jordan Morgan, left tackle out of Arizona, with that first, second round pick and just getting him because I think it is going to be a pretty fast offensive line rush. There is some depth. There's 3 or 4 guys I'll mention that I really like as depth guys in the tackle spots. But for me, you have to get a left tackle or right tackle, whatever, in one of these first, second round picks. You have to. We need someone that can start. And I talked about Charles Leno's contract on one of my videos and, what makes sense with that. Same with Wiley, same with Nick Gates, just breaking down the whole offensive line, free agents and everything. In my opinion, the free agent market, there's a couple options, maybe some stopgap options for a year or two at the left tackle and right tackle spot. But I'm taking Jordan Morgan every time here in the second with that first pick. So I'm just locking him in. I didn't plan on doing a mock draft. I'm just kind of showing y'all where these, pretty much the situation that Washington's going to be in for every pick in a good, game plan for the drafts of who could possibly be there. Because like I said, I think it's going to be a run of wide receivers and a run of offensive linemen in the first round. But having 2 second-round picks where we do, it's very high picks. This draft is loaded. The top 100 of this draft is insane. It's just starters everywhere. Big time game makers, top to bottom. Like I said, that top 100 is loaded. So having all this draft capital where we do is amazing. You'll get some really good talent. Some other guys, Kingsley Matai out of BYU, played both left and right tackle. Another good option there in that second round. A lot of upside. Blake Fisher's a guy I like at right tackle too. He might get to the third round. I'm not as high on him as a lot of people are, but I think he would be an option at the third round. I think Patrick Paul is better than what they have him ranked here. I was at the Senior Bowl this year, and Patrick Paul was winning reps consistently against the best edge rushers in the draft. I mean, Latu out of UCLA, Adisa Isaac out of Penn State. I mean, the best guys were going up against Patrick Paul, and he was dominating reps. I'm a big Patrick Paul fan. I think he could start left tackle day one if you need him to. As good as this offensive line draft is, I'd put him above Blake Fisher, above Kieran, above Kingsley. I think he'd be right there with Jordan Morgan. So if Jordan Morgan goes in the second, I have no problem getting Patrick Paul in the second with one of those picks. Because like I said, the offensive line is going to go fast. Every team in the NFL has a need at one spot in the offensive line. This is up there with wide receiver with, talent-wise this year. But the demand is so heavy for offensive prospects this season. But I really like Patrick Paul. Outside of that, Christian Jones as a kind of maybe a late third, early fourth round grade for me at right tackle. A guy that I didn't know much about until I got to the Senior Bowl. And once again, dominating reps, impressive stuff from Christian Jones. I think he has some things to work on, but the upside is there. Living here in Austin, obviously watching a lot of Texas football this year. when I was watching their offense, it was mostly Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Jadavian Sanders. But Christian Jones, I was like, man, let me look at this guy. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl, trying to get a good feel for everybody. And he definitely stood out to me. Javon Foster is another one of my sleepers, dominated at the Senior Bowl, really good left tackle option. I like him a lot as a late round guy. So maybe if we do sign somebody like Trent Brown or Jonah Williams or whatever in free agency, I would be ecstatic to still draft a guy like Javon Foster in this later round, maybe 4th, 5th, whatever. I really like him. I don't know why he's ranked so low. I've been on the Foster train since like middle of last season. I was a big Missouri fan this year. There's a lot of ballers on Missouri. But I think that really helps you out. Having a vet and then also having Javon Foster kind of in the waiting, give him like a year or two, whatever it is. Like I said, you can sign like a 2-3 year free agent. Like I said, Jonah, Trent Brown. There's a couple other options out there I'm blanking on. But that's something to keep in mind too. But in my opinion, my biggest player that I'm calling for is if Guyton's there, I don't see him making it to the second round. I think he's a late first, maybe even top 25, honestly. But Jordan Morgan, if he's there, or Patrick Paul at left tackle, please draft one of those two. You got to get it done. Let me get off the offense for a second and go to the edge rushers, because I think sticking around that second pick in the second round, obviously these guys here, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, Latu, Broswell, in my opinion, are going to be first rounders, maybe 3-4 of them. You start hearing a lot of Darius Robinson. I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Mel Kiper. Someone said that they could see Darius Robinson going top 10, which would be nuts. But he's an athletic freak, so it wouldn't surprise me, honestly, because this dude's a beast. But say Washington in that second round pick. Let me go back over here to this mock draft simulator real quick. So we pick Jordan Morgan, the first pick in the second. What do you do with that second rounder? So like I said, I mentioned Jatavian Sanders, you got Zach Frazier, but then you have just crazy talent in the edge. Adisa Isaac, first round talent. Chop Robinson was a top 10 pick. And then of course, the board and it gets shuffled around. There's no knocks to Chop Robinson's game, honestly. And then Darius Robinson, I remember this dude was like 200 and something. And I was like tweeting out prospects I was watching. Like I said, I was watching a lot of Missouri. I was like, yo, this guy, Darius Robinson, is built in a lab, and he's a high motor, super strong, super fast. I think this guy's going to blow up at the Senior Bowl, and now he's 45th overall to PFF, and a lot of rankings have him pretty high. So I think this is a guy that could be a steal too. I think this is a position, obviously, the edge class, I talked about that in a free agent video as well. There's a couple big names, but a lot of them are getting tagged. Josh Allen, Brian Burns. Daniil Hunter's probably going to be on the market. Kind of an older option, but he's super productive. Then you have like your Bryce Huff, AJ Epineza. There's a couple others out there, but there's really ideally 2 holes for Washington to fill with Chase Young and Montez Sweat being gone. I like KJ Henry. Should he start next year? Maybe. Like, that's just if things fall through, or if they were to take like Jatavian Sanders here and they already signed somebody in free agency and like, look, we just want to keep, KJ Henry, give him a chance on the other side of the line. Say we get like Daniil Hunter and then KJ Henry, and then you could rotate, re-sign Casey Toohill. I like Casey Toohill. I think he could be productive when he rotates in. He makes a lot out of his reps that he gets. But in my opinion, I still think they need to get a high ceiling playmaker here to really help out that defense. So we saw what Dan Quinn and Joe Wade Jr. could do with a Penn State edge rusher, and I want to see what they can do with another one. Like I said, I really like Darius Robinson a lot, but man, Adisa Isaac and Chop Robinson, I covered Penn State for Rivals, and I got to see these guys in person, got to talk to them, get to know their game a little bit. And honestly, I'm a fan of all 3 of these guys, but I'll just pick Adisa Isaac. High-end motor guy. But I think this is just, you're getting such good value here. Like I said, this is first-round talent in the second round because of how loaded this draft is. And you're going to see, like, and I'll call first-round talent just based off of, like, the grading scale. like you grade them. I think these are guys that could be high 8s, like an 8.9 out of 10 when you go through your grading scale. But I would take Adisa Isaac here in the second round. So you have really good value. So you have your quarterback, you have your left tackle, then you're getting your edge rusher in the second round. What's some other needs that Washington has? Let's talk about tight end, because I've had a lot of people hit me up about tight end, and then I'll talk about like 2 more positions that I'm really keeping an eye on. So tight ends is a tricky one. Obviously, Brock Bowers is like a top 6, top 7 pick. Then you have your Jatavian Sanders. Then there's kind of a fall off after that. Cade Stover. I'm a big Ben Sinnott fan. If y'all follow me, you know I love Ben Sinnott. Dalen Holker, another guy who's been getting talked about a lot recently. Theo Johnson, Jaheim Bell. After that, not really much that excites me. But I'm going to start with Jatavian Sanders. Like I said, that could be an option in the second. He's only 20. He's about to be 21, but still, he's going to be 21 when he's drafted, which is great. You know, wide receivers, you talk about age. I think tight ends right there too. Tight end is one of the positions that takes a little bit to kind of get going and to transition to the NFL. But once again, I'm looking at fits for Washington when I'm doing this. Jatavian Sanders really fits that receiving mold that Cliff is going to love. I do like his game. I think he was in a offense that was really well balanced, run game and passing game. But obviously Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, like with Quinn Ewers throwing the ball, there's only so many targets you can get. But when he, was getting those targets, he was making the most out of them. I really do like his game. Like I said, he would be a great receiving threat. Needs to work on that run blocking a little bit. His run blocking grade is only a 61.5, but contested catch rate 53.8, drop rate 0. He had 0 drops this year. Like, count me in. 0 drops. Let's see. He had 45 catches for 682 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the box score, people are going to be like, oh, he's not worth a second round pick. But like I said, guys, he got 67 targets, but he had 0 drops. So that just tells you some of them weren't catchable, or he got, broken up, whatever. But yards after the catch, tied for 18th in the country, 7.7. Not too bad. Want to see that be a little bit higher. But just a reliable receiving threat, 6'4", 243. That's good size. I like it a lot. Is he worth a second round pick? Yes, in my opinion. But like I just shown y'all with my 2 picks, I think you have to go offensive line, and then the edge rushing talent is just ridiculous. Now I have a couple tight end options that I like in the draft. And then like 1 or 2 guys in free agency I like. There's really not a lot. So maybe you do have to pull the trigger on a guy like Jatavian Sanders. But I'm going to be doing my tight end video soon, so stay tuned for that. But outside of that, I'm not the biggest Cade Stover fan. Just doesn't move the needle for me. Like I said, I'm a giant Ben Sinnott fan. Just talking to him at the Senior Bowl, like he's one of my favorite guys to talk to. Like talking to him was just like talking to one of the boys. I was like, dude, he's like, I know exactly who you are. I see your posts on Twitter and stuff like that all the time. He's like, dude, I appreciate it. I was like, look, man, people need to know who you are because you're legit. I remember watching this guy. I'm an Alabama fan. I remember watching, it was Kansas State, Alabama in the bowl game 2 years ago. And I was like, who is this number 34 catching these NFL routes and crazy like toe tapping sideline catches on my Alabama squad, who had no opt-outs, by the way. I was like, dude, who is this guy? And it was funny. He was like, yeah, he was like, dude, they were literally saying the same thing like on the field, like during the game, like because he had a good breakout game. But he actually won the award for the best fullback in the country because of how well he blocks. But he's not even really a fullback. And I told him this is like at the Senior Bowl, like right when we got Adam Peters and stuff. I was like, dude, you just scream like San Francisco 49ers, which is great because we just got Adam Peters. I was like, dude, come to Washington. We're going to give you the number 0. Like, you're going to rock it. Like, we need you here. And he's like, dude, I would love that. Sign me up. But just look at the numbers. Yards per out run, 2.02. Contested catch rate, great. Drop rate, only 4%. Super high receiving grade. Run blocking grade, off the charts. Only had 2 drops this year. Missed tackles forced. He had 14, tied for 4th in the country. Deep catches, 5 for a guy that wears 34 that plays a lot in the backfield. He can also play, in line, but then also at that Y. the things you can do with him is ridiculous. Like I said, you can use him as a fullback. You can put him in line on runs, and he can also do like some delayed routes. He can run 9 routes like it's nothing. But then also you can line him outside, and he's comfortable out there. I just like what you can do with him. Like I said, I don't think the tight end market is that good this offseason. Getting a guy like him is a steal. I think he'd be there in the 4th. That'd be like perfect for me. That's fine. Like, sign me up all day long. 669 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns last season, 48 catches. Dude's a beast, and he's such a nasty blocker too. Like, he will knock a dude on his tail and then get to that second level and look for more work. Ben Sinnott is one of my top 3 draft crushes in the entire draft out of every position. Ben Sinnott is one of my guys. I could watch his tape all day long. But like I said, you do have some later round guys like Dalen Holker, Theo Johnson, Jaheim Bell, all different kind of guys. Jaheim Bell, a smaller, stockier guy, good after the catch. Theo Johnson, a little bit taller, good hands. Dalen Holker runs guys over, super underrated tight end as well. So there's some options in that middle round. That's why I'm okay passing on JT Sanders, as good as he is, in that second round. And I know I'm kind of contradicting myself, saying like the market's not there, so you kind of have to get a really good tight end. What if Ben Sinnott's already taken? What if Dalen Holker's already taken? Then you got to kind of figure things out. But like in my opinion, if things happen perfectly, you get a guy like Dalton Schultz in free agency, really reliable, worked with a rookie quarterback with CJ Stroud last year. That was one of his safety blanket, like go-to targets outside of like Nico Collins, obviously. Getting him and then drafting a guy like Ben Sinnott. Logan Thomas isn't going to be here. Does John Bates do anything for you? No. Does Cole Turner? I think he's a good depth piece. Armani Rogers coming back off the IR, really athletic guy. High hopes for him as well. You kind of have to figure out that room. But I would sign Dalton Schultz, and I would still draft Ben Sinnott in like the 4th, 5th, wherever he falls to. They have him at 129. When I'm doing mock drafts, he's usually there at the late 4th, early 5th. So that's the tight end position, but Washington has to figure that out. Like, we've been in quarterback, we've been struggling for so long, but you can put tight end up there, right there with the needs, honestly. Let's see. I'll do linebackers, and kind of end things with linebackers. I'll do some offensive linemen real quick. But linebackers is interesting too, because we only have one linebacker essentially coming back with Jamin Davis. Obviously, we have to re-sign some guys or whatever, just get some bodies in there. But what is the blueprint for linebacker? I think there's some really good linebackers in free agency. Patrick Queen, you have your older vets, Bobby Wagner, White, David, but then you have some other younger guys that I like Azeez Al-Shahir, who was with the 49ers. Adam Peters knows him really well. Signed a 1-year deal with the Titans. He's a free agent again this year. Probably be like a $8 million a year kind of linebacker. I'd like him. Not the best in coverage, but he's a sure tackler, and we miss a lot of tackles in that second level. So I would like for him to be one of those pieces. But you still, in my opinion, have to draft at least one linebacker. Because, like I said, even if it's depth, you don't have any depth guys coming back at linebacker either. And the thing is, the linebacker position is being devalued more and more every single year. But then you see guys like Fred Warner making giant plays. I think the league is still in good hands with talent at linebacker. Like I said, there's a couple guys out in the NFL that I love watching. It's not the Ray Lewises, the Luke Kuechly's, and those kind of guys anymore. But it's what can you do like position-wise where you have to rush the quarterback. You have to stop the run, but then also you need to be fast enough to where you're in coverage. It's not your traditional like, hey, we're going to have 3 linebackers on the field all the time. The middle one is going to be like the leader. The outside guys are going to be like coverage guys. And then, maybe your Sam's going to be more so like the run-stopping guy, kind of like the bigger, hard-hitting guy. And then your Will is like a borderline safety who has to cover. And then your Mike has to be able to do everything. Like, it's really not that anymore. You see a lot of 2 linebacker sets, and they both have to be able to do everything, which is great. Like, honestly, that's how it should be. You need athletic guys. Edgerrin Cooper is my linebacker 1. I don't see a linebacker going in the first round. I don't think you see a linebacker go until middle of the second, maybe late second, just because once again, this draft is loaded, but then also the position value at the linebacker is really kind of being devalued. But that's great for us because we need a really good linebacker and we can kind of wait till the third round to get one. So that's something I've kind of struggled with. You know, when you look at the third round, you're like, okay, this Edgerrin Cooper's already gone off the board at 50. Peyton Wilson's already off the board too. Junior Colson just went before us at 66. We're at 67. There's some really good talent. There's some really good wide receivers. Xavier Leggett could be a guy opposite. You know, I don't think Curtis Samuel comes back. Xavier Leggett could be a really good outside option. Jamari Thrash, really good outside deep threat. Brendan Rice, bigger guy. He could be opposite Terry. Malachi Corley, that's another one of my guys. That's like one of my draft crushes. Really Debo-esque. Put him outside Terry, put Jahan in the slot, and you could do some damage there. Talk about spacing defenses. So some really good options at wide receiver in the third. But then you've got Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who would be really good for this team. Very instinctive, really high IQ leader of a defense. Him and Barrett Carter both were just dudes at Clemson. Really good linebacker options. So it's tough because you have to kind of decide, okay, what's the linebacker market like? And you have to get one in free agency, but in my opinion, you have to draft one too. I like Cedric Gray as another later round guy too. If you just go down here to linebackers, you kind of see it kind of falls off. Like I said, I like Jeremiah Trotter Jr., but after that, maybe Michael Barrett. I've watched some of his tapes. JD Bertrand was at the Senior Bowl. Like I said, I really like Cedric Gray. But after that, Jalen Ford, maybe Curtis Jacobs. Darius Muasu is another guy that's kind of popped on tape. Trevin Wallace is an athletic guy. So I think there's some value in these later rounds, but it's just not the same as like Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Edgerrin Cooper, Peyton Wilson, one of those kind of guys. Would I take one in the second though? Man, it's tough because the edge class is deep too. So like if they take Edgerrin Cooper in the second, boom, like, oh my gosh. If you haven't watched Edgerrin Cooper's tape, like just go watch him. He's a perfect linebacker for me. Like I love watching him play. You could get a edge rusher in the third, fourth. Like I said, Gabe Murphy, dude, love his game. Marshawn Nealon, very productive here. Javon Solomon, very productive. Plays just like Bryce Huff, same body style, same like that. Pretty much like a Bryce Huff clone. Muhammad Kamara, you know, production through the roof kind of guy, high motor guy. So there's some options at the edge. So if you want to wait and find a guy, so maybe you swing big in free agency, sign, like I said, Daniil Hunter, whatever. And then on the other side, you just want to kind of rotate KJ Henry and one of these guys and like a mid-round guy. That's fine too. If that's how you plan it out. If you want to get that linebacker in that second round and it's Edgerrin Cooper, great. But like I said, third round, you're looking at a wide receiver. You're looking at linebacker. Blake Fisher, right tackle, maybe. Cam Kinchins, he's one of my draft crushes too. Like top 5 players for me to watch. So that's pretty much what I was looking at. I'll do a quick hit on just offensive linemen because I think there is a fall off. Centers, in my opinion, I want a veteran center. Like Lloyd Cushenberry from the Broncos would be like my dream signing for agency. And like I said, if you haven't seen that, I did a Bleach Report stream for free agent targets. One of my guys there. But like Jackson Powers Johnson, Zach Frazier, these are high round pick guys. Could I see Cedric Van Pran starting next year? Maybe. But like Bo Limmer, no. Nugent, no. Norzad, no. Tanner Borlini, no. We have to get that position down. So, like I said, just a quick hit. Center, it's got to be one of those top 3 guys, and I don't see that happening. So please, please, please sign one. Guard-wise, Christian Haynes, like him a lot. Christian Mahogany, like him a lot. Cooper Beebe, I think he's way higher than 141. He would be a dream guy, maybe in the second, third at left guard. He's cut down a lot of weight so he can move better, but he's a really good guy. I mean, really good talent. Zach Zinner, Trevor Keegan, Javion Cohen, some kind of like these later round guys. But like I said, we have to figure out the left guard spot as well. So these are all options. But in my opinion, you just can't roll out and draft like a whole offensive line. You have to spend some money there. So I think free agency is going to be spent a lot on defense. I think you're going to see some big hits on defense. But I think also maybe one or two, especially depending on what they do cut wise. If they do cut Leno, it's going to be like a post 6-1, like they did with Charles Roulier. I mean, not Charles Roulier, Chase Roulier. And then Wiley, it just doesn't make sense to me to cut him like financially. So maybe we draft a right tackle or sign a right tackle and move him to left guard. He's played both. I think he's better at guard because of his arm length and stuff like that than he is right tackle. So maybe they figure that out. And then, like I said, sign Lloyd Cushenberry at center, draft a left tackle or draft a right tackle, whatever, and get that line figured out. That's top priority. If you're going to get a rookie quarterback, you've got to get that line figured out. But I think you have to go with some veteran leaders there on that offensive line. You can't just roll out 3 rookies and then expect week 1 to just be like a really good offensive line. That's not how it works. But I hope you all got some good information from this. Like I said, some players to watch, some guys that I really like for Washington. These are guys that I've had circled that I think are just really good fits, but then also just position needs and where you can figure that out. Like what round, what values are you looking at with each of those picks, when you should kind of take a guy, but then also just best player available. Who's going to get on the team immediately, make an impact? That's what we're looking for. Like I said, we've got a lot of salary cap, got a lot of draft capital to spend this offseason. So Washington's really got to figure out the roster and get back to our winning ways. So appreciate y'all for tuning in. Like I said, I got some good things cooking up over the next month or so, just going through the offseason for Washington. This is the most important offseason in franchise history. You know, first full offseason for new ownership, new head coach, new GM, new overall coaching in general, new quarterback, more than likely coming, and then just a whole new roster. So buckle up, guys. It's going to be fun. Like I said, I'm Josh Taylor, and I'll see y'all next time here on Bleacher Report.